Welcome to the Stewartby Lake near Bedford for a weekend of Powerboat GP with a difference, because this time it's all or nothing for the Sprint Championship crowns. While the British Championships are fought out throughout the year over 5 rounds with 3 heats at each round to decide the winner, the Sprint Championships is a one-weekend, one-shot special. Same 3 heats to collect points, but this is not the time to have an off weekend. In 2013, the Formula 2 title went to Malcolm Goodman, while in Formula 4 it was Ben Morse, and the GT30 Monohull title was taken by Jordan Muckles. For 3 years in a row, the GT15 Junior title went to Ben Jelf, who went on to win his 4th consecutive British Championship. The only thing spoiling his Grand Slam of titles was when the new kid on the block, Thomas Mantrip, took his Sprint title. I presume, Ben, you want that one championship back this weekend?
Of course I want it back.
Because the British title is now slipping Thomas's way, so you desperately need the Sprint one.
Yeah, through the mistakes I made earlier in the year, it's my last chance to get at least one title back.
But Thomas, for you, the British Championship is looking good, so how hard are you going to press for another Sprint title?
Well, we'd like to get the Sprint title, but we're practicing for the Europeans at Nottingham against the others, so we're not too worried, as we know that the British title is secured, so it would be nice, but it doesn't matter because we've got the British title secured.
You're only 12, he's 14, you've got another 2 or 3 years. How many British titles do you think you can get?
At least 3.
But he's got 4.
Well, I could get 4 if I stay till I was 16.
I just might have to come back and win it off you then.
So, all right, well, I'll just leave you to it. Enjoy the racing. Ben, this is Thomas. Thomas, Ben, they're good friends, I'm told, maybe, or maybe not. Not quite sure. After qualifying, it was Ben who had the biggest smile. Well, that's pole position sorted. That Mantrip boy's got a bit of work to do to capture this weekend, doesn't he?
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm not going to make it easy for him this weekend. I'm just going to try and beat him this time.
But Thomas still had reasons to be cheerful.
Well, to be fair, it's not too bad because we've got a new boat after the one I crashed in Czech, and we had to replace it with this boat.
Ah, it's just the new boat of the future.
It's the older style, but it's younger in the age compared to my other one. We got my other one at the start of the season, which is the new design, and we're just developing that a bit more, and we think we've got that a lot quicker.
Well, there was another top 3 qualifying spot from promising newcomer Elliot Fleet. Elliot, another top 3 in qualifying. You must be dead chuffed.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But you're a relative novice with all these juniors have been doing for years, and it was all your dad's fault, was it? Was a birthday gift last year?
The year before, actually, Tiff, but yes, it was a birthday present, just a training lesson. It was either a computer game or something a bit more adventurous. It's taken us down a different path, shall I say.
So you're delighted your dad took you on this, and it's been something that's brought your life alive?
Yeah, quite happy about it.
And how are you learning the tactics and setting up the boats? You get help from the other competitors? So you have to do it all yourself. Have you been learning boat manual lessons then, Dad?
Yeah, well, not necessarily boat manual lessons. It's been a bit of trial and error, Tiff, to be honest. And we're not from a powerboat or even a racing background. So, again, if we can do it, anybody can do it.
So the stage is set, and it's time to join our race commentator Jason Mantrip to see how the first 2 heats went.
So they all line up for Heat 1 of the Sprint Championships for 2014. And it was Ben Jelf who actually got left on the start pontoon. He didn't get away, but eventually he did. Something went wrong, perhaps with the start button or perhaps the starter motor. So it's hard work for him, really, to try and get through the rest of the pack. He didn't win the championships last year, and he'll be definitely wanting to beat his rival Thomas Mantrip in this Sprint Championship in 2014. Mantrip was to lead the race, with Elliot Fleet in a strong second position in boat number 11. Ben Jelf was to try and fight his way through, and already he moves up into second position. Elliot Fleet then seeming to be no opposition for the Jelf. In the meantime, Thomas Mantrip was holding off Ben Jelf. It was going to be a strong fight to the checkered flag. Mantrip trying to hold off Jelf as Jelf tries everything he possibly can in the book to try and get past Mantrip. Round the final turn, and it's a drag race to the start-finish line. Who was going to take the checkered flag? Would it be Mantrip or would it be Ben Jelf? Seconds to go before the finish, and Jelf pulls right up along Mantrip, just a nose in front. The checkered flag then is dropped, and Jelf is the winner. So Ben Jelf takes the win with 400 points, with Mantrip in second with 360 points, and third position goes to Elliot Fleet. We look down now at Stewartby Lake for heat number 2. Harvey Smith, who scored no points in heat 1, will be desperate to try and score some points in heat 2. But a despaired Colin Jelf looks on as his son is left once again on the start grid. It's going to be a long race for Jelf. Harvey Smith and Jonathan Brewer have their battle on for their respected positions, but knowing that Ben Jelf is pretty hungry to get past. Brewer looks across, but Jelf has made Brewer history. Jack Pickles and Harvey Smith fight it out for their positions as Jelf once again trying to make his way past. Thomas Mantrip was to be the leader, leading the race over everybody else, and Elliot Fleet having a good look around. He knows that Jelf is coming. Jelf then on the mission. He passes Harvey Smith. Only a few more boats then left between Jelf and the checkered flag, and a race victory. Can he do it this time? He was lucky in heat 1. Will he be so lucky in heat number 2? Thomas Mantrip looks across. He knows the opposition is coming. Last year's winner, Thomas Mantrip, of the British Sprint Championships. He'll be wanting to take home the title back to the East Coast. Ben Jelf lines himself up for a passing manoeuvre on Elliot Fleet on the inside of the next turn. Fleet runs a little bit wide, and Jelf goes through to second. Mantrip knows that Jelf is coming then. Just a little short space between Jelf and Mantrip, so the pressure then really is on for young Thomas. Thomas Mantrip knows that he lost out just by a fraction of a second in heat 1. He won't want to do it in heat 2, so it's foot to the floor and full throttle all the way. Thomas Mantrip then acknowledges the checkered flag and takes heat number 2. So a tidy leaderboard, both on 760 points, both Jelf and Mantrip, with Elliot Fleet in third position. And Harvey Smith is the final boat, 236 points for him.
Thomas, 2 very hectic heats. You just won the second one after Ben just made another mistake, but that first heat was so close, wasn't it?
Well, in the first heat, he didn't have the engine engaged into gear, so that gave me the advantage to get into first position.
But then he tracked you down. Did you think you'd won it?
For the last about 3 laps, we were just battling it out for first, and then on the last lap, he just pipped me just to the post. Just got me, so then he was on pole for the next heat, and the next heat his engine still wasn't going into gear, so I got ahead again, and then I knew from the last heat that I just needed to keep going, keep ahead, and then I'll be able to do it.
What is going on with the Ben Jelf launch system? First heat not in gear. What happened just now?
Just now, there's a problem with the start motor. We'll just be going in trying to fix it.
So you've made getting that second place was crucial, wasn't it, on that last lap, so you're equal on points?
Yes.
What was did you think you won the first race? What was your tactic when you were hunting Thomas down?
The main tactic was to just try and avoid out of his wash and just keep trying to go ahead, just down his outside.
Did you think you'd won it when you crossed the line in the first heat?
I wasn't exactly sure who'd won it at that point.
If there's one category that has to have a standout favourite, it must be in the 4S catamaran class, where sprint champion Ben Morse is back to defend that title and add to a rather growing list of titles. What is it? In the juniors, it was 4 British and 5 sprint. Then we won the GT30 British Championship. Then we won the GT4S British title. Then we won the GT4 sprint. And this year, don't you get bored with collecting all these titles?
Well, I don't think you can ever get bored of collecting titles, can you? Obviously, the more you got, the happier you'll be.
And does it become easier the more you win?
No, it's never easy. There's always someone out there trying to stop you.
Well, best luck this weekend for I don't know, 16th title. I've lost count.
And there was no stopping Ben in qualifying.
Ben, another pole position. Looks like another title is pretty much in your grasp.
I wouldn't say it's in our grasp yet. Obviously, there's 3 heats to go. It's very windy out there today, so obviously anything can happen.
Tim Lewis was to have a problem. Would he make it for the start of the race? Everybody else was to line up on the grid for heat number 1 of the British Sprint Championships for the F4Ss. Tim Lewis still struggling. The cowling is off the boat, and that's never good news. Ben Morse is sitting happy though in pole position, and Tim Lewis did make it to the grid just in time. The boats line up on the start grid with Mike Pillow and everybody else, but it was Sam Whittle in number 30 who got a very bad start and the boat failed to pull away. But he got going in the end as everybody else charged up into the first turn. A very overcast day at Stewartby Sprints, the weather not being very kind to 2014 season. The 2 white boats of Morse and Veers, their strong opposition. Natalie Craddock was to find herself once again mid-pack. She had to try and negotiate her way across the wash of Palfreyman. Mike Pillow then chasing Rob Veers. Rob Veers, who has actually had a very good 2014. Ben Morse having a very tidy race out in front at the moment and was to lead, pulling away from the rest of the field. Morse in 97, a new boat for him for the middle part of 2014, and he takes the first win. It sets himself up good for the rest of the championship for the British Sprints. So a win then for Ben Morse, 400 points for him. Rob Veers, excellent second, 360 points, and Mike Pillow, third, 324 points. The boats then lined up for Heat 2. Tim Lewis made sure that he was on the grid with no panics, and a very good start for Tim Lewis, in fact. Everyone else then gets away fine as they all charged up towards that first turn, which is always the most dangerous one. Once again, Pillow and Veers were to have a very good scrap, but Pillow got the better of Rob Veers. But the man they were all chasing was the current leader of the British Championships, was Ben Morse. Ben having the drive of his life out there in front in what was to be very tricky and windy conditions. Rob Veers was to see Mike Pillow slightly pull away, and he was to be under threat, in fact, by Matt Palfreyman, who was multitasking once again over the weekend, driving not only in the F4S class, but also in Formula 2. But Ben Morse, he was the man to beat over the weekend. He was looking fairly comfortable, and to make it 2 out of 2 for him. So Ben Morse leads the leaderboard with 800 points, with Mike Pillow in second, 684 points, tying, in actual fact, with Rob Veers with the same amount of points.
Ben, 2 heats, 2 wins, going to plan so far?
Yeah, absolutely made up with all the boat handles. That's the first time I've been out in it, in the proper rough and the wind. Absolutely made up with it. Mick had a good chance there, but obviously I managed to keep him off, so really happy. 1 more to go now. So
2 heats, but 2 average starts. What's going wrong at the beginning?
Can't get it off the line. If I could get it off the line, it'd be a different story, wouldn't it? I just can't get it off the line. Hey ho.
So while Ben Morse has one hand on that sprint title, he's still got to finish the 3rd heat to claim the crown. Make sure you join us after the break when the GT30 and Formula 2 heats get underway. Welcome back to the Powerboat GP British Sprint Championships, where the monohull GT30 class has almost become a completely female affair, with the latest addition to their ranks, Abby Brewer. Abby, you're racing against girls that have done the junior categories for several years. You're a newcomer to this. How are you finding it?
Yeah, finding it all right. I've not done the sprints before. The course is a bit different. I've done a few club races at Stewartby, but this seems to be going the other way, so it would be good to try a different course.
So have you never been out on this circuit before?
Not on this circuit that's out now, no.
What about the technical side? People are talking about different propellers and engines. Do you get involved in that?
No, I try to keep out of it as much as I can. I have no idea what they're talking about. I've got my old prop back on, that's all I know. So hopefully I feel a bit more comfortable in it today.
As if pole in the junior category wasn't good enough, Ben Jelf also took pole for the GT30s.
Ben, not only do you want your junior title back, but you're getting greedy now. You're on pole position for the GT30s as well.
Yeah, this year I'm just going to try and push forward for the GT30 as well as 15s.
How much difference is driving a GT30?
With GT30, it's going a lot faster than what it is. It's a lot harder to turn as well. You can't just turn from turn to board like you do in the 15.
Are you enjoying the challenge?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the challenge pretty good. Although the water's a bit gusty, but it's fine.
Charlotte Newton led the chasing pack of girls.
Charlotte, fastest girl, but there's that boy Jelf ahead of you. Happy?
I'm happy where we are, but I want to get ahead of him.
But it's windy out there. You nearly went swimming, didn't you, halfway through that session?
Yes, definitely. It was a bit scary, so we had to put some more weight in the front to keep me safe.
Well, Jess Stoneman wasn't content with third.
Jess, you started this year as the queen of the GT30s, that girl to beat. Only third in qualifying. Have you got some more speed to find?
Basically, we started from the beginning because from Chase Water we had a bit of trouble with the boat, so it needed to be repaired. It's been
you keep breaking it then. Why is it?
It just keeps splitting. It's just really, really thin at the bottom, so it keeps flexing. And then obviously when you hit a high wave, it'll split, and that's why there was so much water in it at Chase Water. We're hoping to trim it out for the first heat so we can get a bit more speed.
What could Jess Stoneman do in the very poor, rainy conditions from third on the grid? The answer was nothing at the moment because she got left on the start grid. Ben Jelf, however, having a much better pull away in GT30 than what he did in GT15. The boat starting right on time, and it's already right on the money. Jelf, concerned about the wind in earlier races, was to go flat out in heat number 1 and pulled away from the rest of the field. Abby Brewer in number 8 was to lead over Jess Stoneman. The rest of the field, incidentally, all young lady drivers. Jess Stoneman trying to salvage something from her wrecked start where she was left on the grid. She won't be happy with that. She was to keep close to the turns to try and catch up with Ben Jelf, who is her cousin. But Jelf was to lead over the rest of the pack and was to win heat number 1. So Jelf then 400 points for him, with Charlotte Newton 360 points and Jess Stoneman 324 points for her third position. On to heat 2 as Ben Jelf once again starts in the pole position. What could he do from here? Could he make it 2 in a row? The boat's left the pontoon, and a better start was had this time around by Jess Stoneman. It put her up into second position, ahead of her rival, Charlotte Newton, number 27. Those two have had a good scrap all season. Abby Brewer was just behind in boat number 8, as Jess Stoneman was piling on the pressure for Ben Jelf. But Jelf was already a few boat lengths into the distance, but then this happened. His boat took off and rolled over in the strong gusting winds. Stewartby, renowned for windy conditions. Unfortunately for Ben Jelf, it wasn't his day today. The red flags were brought out and the race was stopped. Jess Stoneman looks on. She's a little bit concerned on how her cousin Ben is out there, but in come the rescue and they recover young Ben Jelf. It's good news for Jess Stoneman though, because she wins heat number 2. So it puts her at the top of the leaderboard with 724 points. Charlotte Newton in second with 720 and Jess Beaumont third, 586 points.
Jess,
I bet you couldn't believe your eyes there.
Oh,
Suddenly.
no, I had such a good start, and then Ben was pulling away as well, and then I come around the top buoy there, and I just saw his floating around the water, and I panicked, and I was like, oh!
You right, Ben? All right? Ben, everyone's helping out, trying to fix your wet boat to get out for the third heat, but that's a no points when you cause a red flag, is it?
Yes, unfortunately. Just made a bit of a mistake on that turn.
But just when you look like you were cruising to possibly 2 sprint titles, in a flash like that, it can go wrong so quickly when there's a wind up with these boats.
Yeah, I mean, the boat's designed to trap wind underneath it, and if they get too much, they fly away.
While the other classes only have the sprint titles to worry about, things are a bit different for the Formula 2 catamarans, because this is also the 4th round of their British Championship, which might just play to the hands of the likes of Matt Palfreyman, who, despite a brilliant 2nd place at the last run in Chasewater, has been a long shot for that title. So, all or nothing this weekend, Matt.
Well, that's it. I think we're going for a little bit of winning spoon this weekend. Like you said, mathematically we can still just get the title, but realistically everyone else is not crashing.
It's really coming on strong now, isn't it? We've had all the engine problems, teething problems, and now you're on the pace.
Well, that's it. We're getting there now. We've got a few props to try this weekend. We're not so sure about whether it's a short or long course. I think the front straight's about 500–600 metres, but then there's a few short squirty straights which are 200 metres, so if I put a long prop on, I won't have the acceleration going down 2 or 3 of the straights. There's also 2 hairpins, so I need the acceleration.
So it's quite a technical, so you come rushing past the start-finish line. Is it a flat left, the first turn?
It all depends which prop I've got on. I'm going to try a few different lines, a few different propellers in it, but we'll see what happens.
And then down to the next turn, that's a hairpin, is it? The second?
That's normally quite a rough hairpin, and especially if you're stuck in the pack, and then you've got to get it reeled back on itself to get yourself into the right-hander.
After qualifying, Matt found himself a disappointing 6th on the grid, just 0.43 seconds slower than 3rd place man Owen Jelf.
Very happy with 3rd place on the grid. We'll see what happens in the race.
More speed to go. It's windy out there. It's changing a lot.
Yeah, it is a bit. It's a bit changeable, but that's Stewartby. Yeah.
So it was the British Championship points leaders, Paul Balfour and Colin Jelf, who took the 2 top spots.
He's on fire. Pole position again. What are you going to do about that?
I don't know yet. I mean, we'll try, but obviously he's got an advantage from pole around here. It's quite a short course as well, so it's going to be difficult to get round him. Let's just hope he doesn't start very well, maybe.
Oh, what sort of sportsman? But boy, it's really going well now. You must be happy. Was it tricky out there? The wind was up.
Wind was changing through the practice time. We only had 20 minutes, but the wind did change, and so they got a little bit stronger later on. I'm not sure when I got my fastest lap. I've not seen the times yet, but it felt okay. It felt steady.
How would the 2 rivals fare in the race itself? 2 lots of classes in this race, the Optimax class, which is the new breed Formula 2, and the SST 120 class, who are on a 5-second delay. They're the old style and the old school engines. But it was Colin Jelf and Paul Balfour who were to fight their way out in front, with Paul Balfour, who was to lead the race. Colin Jelf was to lead over his brother, who was in 3rd position. Owen Jelf always puts up a good fight at national and international levels. Matt Palfreyman, 77, had to try and salvage something from his poor qualifying position, which was 6th place. Paul Balfour knew that the Jelf pressure was coming. Could he maintain his lead in these very windy and difficult conditions? He knew that he would soon be lapping the back markers, but he'd done enough actually in the race to take the first win. So Paul Balfour will be happy with that, and it does put him at the top of the leaderboards with 400 points. Owen Jelf a good 2nd position, 360 points, and Colin Jelf was 3rd. Sean Newstead was to appear in his 1st ever national race, finishing 10th. The boats lined up for heat number 2, and away go the Optimax engines as they powered up towards the 1st turn. Balfour was to fire out into the lead again, but a good scrap for the 2nd position between Jelf's and Alan Marshall. But it was Colin who beat his brother up to the turn to try and get through into that 2nd spot. Jelf made it safely round the turn, with Balfour powering away into the distance. Colin knows that he needs to try and get a win if he wants to be the British Sprint Champion. It's all looking good for Balfour as Jelf powered on. He also knows that his brother is also hungry for a British Sprint title as well. And Owen Jelf, very happy in that third position. All the racing was very, very close, including Alan Marshall and Matt Palfreyman, who will have a good scrap in mid-pack. But Matt Palfreyman ran into some difficulties, and it was to bring out the red flag.
Matt, you couldn't quite get the starts you wanted. You fought through the first heat. The second heat, you were still fighting. When what did the boy jump out in front of you?
No, I missed the start. Well, I missed the button on the first start, so I got a bad start. Come around the lap, I got past Alan. I was coming into Steve. I knew I was so much quicker than him, so I went for a big cutback on, well, what is turn 4. Obviously overcooked and went straight through the turn. Tried to deny it, but everyone said it went quite high, so.
Yes, I think, we all spotted it was you. So that's, if you do the buoy, you've caused the red flag, you're out of that heat completely.
As soon as you cause the red flag, you're out.
With the race restart then, no Matt Palfreyman in this one. So once again, Paul Balfour had it all to do. A good start from both of the drivers in the first and second on the grid spots. The SST 120s got away as well, a clean start from them. But it was Balfour who was to power off once again into the distance. Has Colin Jelf's dream of becoming British Sprint Champion in 2014 also gone into the distance? Balfour, a good strong lead for him, knowing that he would soon have a mirror full of Jelf. They line up through the right-hander with Balfour still leading. He would soon get harassed by some back markers. Jelf sees the opportunity to go through and take the lead and takes it nice and tight round the final corner. Jelf then was to power on and take the second heat. A great drive from him. Paul Balfour still leads the top of the leaderboard with 760 points, with Colin Jelf in second, 724 points. As we look further down with Shulver with 344 points.
Colin, that looked more like it, a tremendous turn of speed.
Yeah, the conditions have come round to what I was used to in the World Series, so it really paid off for us then. With the wind, it picked the boat up, livened it up, and I think Paul was struggling with that, so we took advantage and went straight past him.
Did he mug you? We've got a problem? What?
Yeah, it's windy conditions. Got a bad turn on somebody's wash at the top turn. Got the wrong line into the right-hander. Lost the speed and it's too late then.
Owen, good first heat, but the second heat you've let that brother of yours get the jump on you.
Well, I have, but he's a good driver and he did well, didn't he? So good luck to him. All on the last heat makes it much more a race this weekend, right?
Well, the interesting thing in the last heat now, almost Colin's relying on his brother to get ahead of Mr. Balfour to help him win the title.
I'm going to go for a heat win, so that may help him.
2 heats down, 1 to go. Make sure you join us after the break for the Powerboat GP finals. Welcome back to Powerboat GP. The GT15 Juries are lined up on the grid for their final heat, and it couldn't be closer. It's Sprint Champion against British Champion. They both had 1 win and 1 second place. They're tied on points. It's all or nothing as we rejoin our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
Can Thomas Mantrip defend his Sprint Championship, or will Ben Jelf just beat him? It's all down to this final heat to decide the British Sprint GT15 Championship. All the boats then get away from the start grid, and Thomas Mantrip has a look across at Ben Jelf. Jelf then wanting to get to the first turn in front of Mantrip to try and control the race from the front. Everybody else gets away nice and cleanly, and Jelf so relieved that his boat started on time this time around. Ran the first turn then, and Ben Jelf and Thomas Mantrip almost tying around the first corner, but you can see now that Ben Jelf powering away with Thomas Mantrip not too far behind, but Jelf has done enough to get the clear sweep then. So Thomas Mantrip is second, and Elliot Fleet, who's having a great 2014 season, he is in third position. We ride on board with Elliot Fleet. He can see the battle happening just in front of him. And Ben Jelf had a couple of problems last year at that particular turn where his boat took off, and that was really what cost him the championship last season. But he knows that this year, in 2014, it could be pretty much his. Jack Pickles in number 14, finding himself a little bit further down the pack than what he actually would like to be, but nevertheless still having great fun in these very, very tricky Stewartby weather conditions. You can see the water then roughing up as Jess Beaumont in number 22 coping very well with these very tricky conditions in her boat. She was also multitasking this weekend and also having her first drive in GT30 class. The rest of the pack, though, still fairly close together, but Elliott Fleet in third position, while the other two scrapping just ahead of them. Mantrip or Jelf, who would it be to become the British Sprint champion? Jelf still leading, but as we look down amongst the rest of the pack as they come towards us, a great sight with all these youngsters, all very, very competitive and all very much on the money. Harvey Smith just in view, just going underneath us, coming from a background of powerboat racing family. So we look across the course then, and Brewer in the white boat just charging on one of her main rivals as they go around the left-hander and up towards the far end of the racecourse. And once again you can see still very choppy conditions. Elliott Fleet, though, in number 11 is coping with it very well. But Mantrip, this is really one last attempt for him to try as he sees his British title slipping away second by second as Ben Jelf dominating heat number 3. Mantrip will be upset, but Ben Jelf will be happy. Jonathan Brewer having a good look around to see where his opposition is going to come from. But we look back then from the rooster tail of Ben Jelf, and no one else in this heat can be a match for him. Jelf has a little bit of a look around, but I think he can sit pretty comfortably in this third and final heat. He'll be so relieved, I think, if the machinery just needs to hang on just that little bit longer, and he will become the British Sprint champion for GT15. Round the turn then, and Jelf knows he's done enough to put one over on his rival, Thomas Mantrip. He looks behind, he says, there you are, but I think that this championship in 2014 is mine. And Thomas, you're going to have to work just that little bit harder. You may be leading the British Championship, but the British Sprint Championship is mine. So he wins with 1,160 points, with Mantrip second and Elliott Fleet becoming third in the British Sprint Championship.
Ben, it's been quite literally days of ups and downs, but you've ended with a fantastic result. Sprint champion junior GT15s. Delighted?
Yeah, I'm quite delighted. I mean, I was hoping to go for GT30, but we always have bad luck.
So will this be your last GT15 crown? Now you can retire as a champ, but do you still think maybe that British title hasn't escaped you yet?
Not sure yet. I might try and get it.
Big round of applause, please, for our junior drivers this weekend. Well done to all of them.
On then to the Formula 4S, where the question seems to be not so much who's going to win after Ben Morse has dominated the weekend so far, but who's going to take that runners-up spot that's so closely fought between Rob Veers and Mike Pillow, as we wait for the red lights to come on.
So, unless something dramatic happens in the third and final heat for the F4S class, Ben Morse can almost say for sure that he is going to win a back-to-back title in 2014. He's already crowned before the end of the season the 2014 F4S champion. Can he become this weekend the F4S British Sprint champion? He just needs to keep the boat up really the right way as everyone charges up towards the first turn. But once again, 3 white boats having a very, very good start. One of them is Morse, one of them is Veers, and the other one is Tim Lewis. So they go around the first turn, everyone keeping the boats upright, with Mike Pillow having a very, very good charge and a good challenge, in fact, for the lead. Look at that. As we look down, as they go across the lake, it's a different race course set up to the normal national course, but once a year they race across the lake as opposed to up and down it. A very, very different style of driving is needed for this particular circuit. One driver doing very well, though, in an old boat, in an old style boat, is Matt Palfreyman in boat number 15 as he challenges Rob Veers there in boat number 18. And Veers struggling a little bit. Natalie Craddock, in fact, fancies her chances of perhaps getting in the mix of things. So we look back then from Ben Morse, as, well, you would be able to see them, but they're so far behind now, Ben Morse. They're just trying their best they can to try and catch them up. In fact, some of them are trying too hard, and that is Rob Veers having a moment, and that's allowed Natalie Craddock to take the position, and I think that's for 4th place, and Natalie Craddock then approaching the right-hander, but Veers has come back at her. So Rob Veers well up for the challenge here this weekend, and he's drove very, very well this season. But Mike Pillow in number 42 forever chasing Jelf. Oh, and that was close, wasn't it? Look at that, because that was Rob Veers cutting right across the nose of Natalie Craddock. But Ben Morse can see nothing like this in front of him, because he's had a clear lead pretty much all weekend, and the 97 familiar sight being out in front. That new boat working very well for him, a maximum of 1,200 points. Mike Pillow, second with 1,044 points, and Rob Veers third, 946 points. Ben Morse, British Sprint Champion.
Ben, the perfect end to a perfect weekend.
Yeah, you know, made up. It's unofficially 2 national titles in 3 weeks. You can't complain about that.
And a European title next up on your encounters.
I know, you can always hope, can't you?
What's the thing? I mean, you set the boat up for the start and the race conditions, or is there a balance between the two?
We always work on the start mainly. If you can get to the first turn first, it makes it a lot easier for you. You can sort of control the race from the front. That's all we did today. We knew it was windy, we knew Mick could be quicker in the rough. So just sat there, put a big enough gap between us and left it at that.
Another title end to add to Ben Morse's ever-growing list. Make sure you join us after the break, where it's time to find out who wins the GT30 and Formula 2 crowns. Welcome back to Stewartby for the Powerboat GP GT30 final, where, after the spectacular retirement of Ben Jelf, a young girl is about to be crowned Sprint Champion. The question is, which one?
So we look back at the GT30 action for the British Sprint Championships for them, minus Ben Jelf, who of course had that rather dramatic accident in heat number 2. So it's an all-girl final then, with Jess Stoneman, Charlotte Newton, Abby Brewer and Jess Beaumont in her debut in GT30. As they go up towards the first turn, the 2 rivals of Stoneman and Newton. Jess Stoneman has a quick glance back and she can see exactly where Charlotte Newton is. She needs to keep ahead of her. Oh, and that's very, very close between Newton and Stoneman. They've had their differences in the past on the water when they made contact in the opening round. This is a one-off championship, of course, a British Sprint title, and they just need to keep it clean. But good driving from both of these young ladies, keeping it very, very tight and very competitive. And in fact, you can see how hard Charlotte Newton is trying in number 27, almost losing it at that top turn. So, Jess Beaumont in number 22, not only in the GT15 class, but also behind the wheel of the slightly more powerful GT30 class, as we ride on board with Jess Stoneman, who was leading the race. And she knows that just a few more laps and she could be crowned British Sprint Champion, which would be a first for her and a very, very creditable thing to have on her CV. Round the turn once again with these 2 young ladies, and Abby Brewer on the outside in boat number 8, who found a little bit of power in the early stages of the weekend, but the boat then seeming to just drop off the pace slightly, and Beaumont now trying to make a manoeuvre. She lines it up nicely on the inside. Oh, and Abby Brewer gets a bit of a wobble on the outside. Jess Stoneman looking very concerned on how far behind Charlotte Newton is. But she doesn't need to worry for too much longer. She can see the British Sprint Championship becoming hers. The checker flag is waved and Stoneman is the winner. So it smiles all round then for Jess Stoneman, who becomes British Sprint Champion. Charlotte Newton was second with 1,080 points, and Abby Brewer, a very good third position for her.
Jess Stoneman, British Sprint Champion. How does that feel, Jess? Hey, what?
I was watching out for Charlotte because she was catching me up, and I was trying to chill, but I was racing at the same time and it was such a buzz. I feel like I'm going to cry. I'm so excited.
Never cry.
No,
You're
I
a
can't
champion.
Cry.
You can do whatever you want.
I can't cry on national TV.
She just got away by about 20 yards. And
so
you got it down to about 10 yards and then couldn't quite finish.
No. But I'd like to see another, a few more laps. I'd like to see what had happened because I was closing on her, but don't know.
Disappointed, obviously, but a great race.
Yeah, it was good.
Abby, you've survived the week. It looked a bit rough and you nearly went swimming lots of times. Then,
Yeah,
was it?
really windy. It was really bumpy. I'm not sure this was set up for the wind, but yeah, it lasted.
Time for the Formula 2 finale. It's the Balfour versus the Jelfs. Seconds out, round 3.
Ding ding, and away we go then. It's all or nothing for Balfour and Jelf. Who will get there? The boats line up on the start grid. Balfour is ready, his mechanics are ready. Will it be him who's British champion? Or will it be Colin Jelf, who is British sprint champion? Jelf has the advantage, of course, of being on the pole position. Owen Jelf always fancies his chances as the SST 120 drivers now get away, with Shulver in 37, making his return to F2 National Racing. But a brilliant start from Paul Balfour as they go up towards the top then. And we look down at the Optimax class, the Formula 2. This is the new breed F2. The engines have become much more powerful. 2.5 Mercury engines as opposed to the old school two-stroke engines of the SST 120s. So Colin Jelf then really now at a disadvantage because he can see Paul Balfour wandering off into the distance as we ride on board of Alan Marshall, who has very good moments, and he had a bit of an off moment at the last national round at Chasewater where he had all sorts of mistakes. So he's feeling his way around this Stewartby racecourse. But already the race leader is getting caught up in traffic, and that's John Masters just ahead of him. So Balfour then now lapping the back markers. That's going to hold him up a little bit, I think. Matt Palfreyman allowed back in heat 3 after destroying the Turnboy in heat number 2. He knows his weekend is wrecked, but it's more time and great more testing time for him in the boat. Paul Balfour then leads as he very carefully picks his way through the back markers. The conditions then getting very, very tricky. The new, faster Optimax boats compared with the slower SST 120 boats, finding it very hard to pick his way through. We look at once again at Matt Palfreyman as he rounds the pit turn. Colin Jelf then in boat number 4, still chasing hard, but he can see his British Sprint title championship chances just slipping away now. And an accident, now that's a problem, and that is Ray Burney, who has been in contact with another boat. The red flags are waved as Ray Burney proceeds to sink. Well, he doesn't want to get out of the boat, does he? Either way, he's still going to get wet as he tries to beach the boat onto the rescue boat, but that boat, my friend, is going to sink. Contact, in fact, with Brian Shulver has made a big hole in the underside of this wooden Burgess hull. And you can see for yourselves there the damage to Ray Burney's boat, and Ray Burney in the end did actually end up getting wet. We look down as the rescue boats are on hand, and the divers all do a splendid job over the whole of the Powerboat GP season. They all attend every event to rescue for such things like this. But it's this man who's happy, Paul Balfour, who is now crowned British Sprint Champion for Formula 2. So Paul Balfour wins 1,160 points, with Colin Jelf second, 1,048 points, and Owen Jelf was third.
Paul, that final start was crucial. Jelf's each side of you and you launched out of the middle.
Yeah, it was either going to be very good or a disaster. Fortunately, the boat started well, and it picked up really, really well and got a cracking start.
And of course, today wasn't just a sprint championship points for you, it was British championship points as well, and you must be pretty close to clinching that second title.
Yeah, I just need to just keep a clean sheet, I think, at the next round, and that should be enough.
Sprint champion shortly, British champion, fingers crossed. Well done, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all from Stewartby. Make sure you join us next time when the British Powerboat GP competitors face a European invasion at the Nottingham Watersports Centre.